Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to tackle a pretty complex topic.
Yeah.
The relationship between technology, power, and prosperity.
Oh, interesting.
And we're going to be looking at it over the last 1,000 years. So
Oh,
quite a big scope. We've got a ton of sources to dig into,
okay.
historical accounts, economic analysis, all that good stuff. But the thing we really want to get at
Yeah.
is how technology's impact on prosperity isn't a guarantee.
Mm.
It's not just automatic. It really comes down to choices
Okay.
and power dynamics.
All right.
And that's what makes it so interesting, right?
Yeah. I mean, you think about it.
Yeah.
Some technological leaps have made life better for pretty much everyone,
Right.
but others have just led to more exploitation.
Exactly. It's like,
Yeah.
why is it that sometimes everybody wins and other times just a small group benefits?
Right.
So I think that brings us to a really important question, especially as we enter this age of AI.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be a tool for the powerful, or can it actually empower all of us?
It's a big question.
It is a big question.
Hmm.
And, I think a lot of people just assume that technological advancements automatically mean
Yeah.
a better life for everyone.
Right. It's kind of this idea that we're all just going to get on this
Yeah.
productivity bandwagon and everything is just going to work out great.
Right. Like it's this magical solution.
Yeah. Higher wages, better living
Right?
standards.
Like utopia through innovation.
Exactly. But the reality is history paints a very different picture.
Yeah, it's way more complicated than
Yeah.
that. Let's look at the early Industrial Revolution in Britain.
Okay.
You had massive productivity gains, right? Like with those mechanized looms,
Mm-hmm.
incredible inventions. But for the workers,
Yeah.
and especially for those skilled weavers,
Right.
it was a complete disaster.
It was a huge upheaval.
Yeah, like their skills were basically obsolete overnight,
Yeah.
and they were forced into these factories with longer hours,
Yeah.
stagnant wages, just brutal conditions.
Yeah. I mean, imagine
It's hard to even fathom.
your entire way of life, your skills, everything you've known,
Yeah.
just suddenly irrelevant.
Just like that. No wonder there was a backlash.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they were smashing those machines in protest.
The Luddite riots.
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
it's easy to dismiss that as just some irrational fear of technology, but it was much deeper than that.
It was about livelihoods.
Yeah, about protecting their
What's
livelihood.
to live life.
Absolutely. And pushing back against how dehumanizing
Yeah.
industrialization had become.
It seems like a pretty clear signal that progress wasn't benefiting everyone equally.
Right. And that uneven distribution, it often boils down to
Yeah.
power.
Power. Who has it and how they use it.
Exactly. I mean, look throughout history, elites have used technology to control,
Yeah.
to extract more from workers, more surpluses.
Yeah, and the cotton gin is such a great example of that.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like this remarkable invention, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't exactly lead to shared prosperity.
No, it didn't. In
Yeah.
fact, it made the horrors of slavery in the American South even worse.
It's almost like a paradox.
Yeah.
You have this invention that could have eased labor,
Mhm.
made things better for everyone,
Right.
but instead it intensifies this horrible system.
It did, because the power dynamics meant that the slave owners, they were the ones who benefited.
They used it to exploit even more ruthlessly.
Exactly.
And it's not just about brute force either.
Well,
right?
it's not. You have the power of persuasion, too.
That's so important. Like, think about that whole positive good narrative that was used to defend slavery.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about controlling the narrative,
Absolutely.
using rhetoric to maintain a system.
Right. Even when it's causing so much suffering.
Yeah, for others.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, are we falling into those same traps today?
I mean, think about the stories we tell ourselves about technology now.
Right?
Are we being sold a vision of progress that only benefits a few?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's not just about who owns the technology. It's about who controls the narrative around it.
Exactly. And to really understand that,
Yeah.
we need to look at specific historical episodes.
Okay, so give me an example.
Well, Panama Canal is a fascinating case study.
Oh, yeah, with Ferdinand de Lesseps.
Yeah, the guy behind the Suez Canal.
He was convinced he could just replicate that success in Panama.
Exactly. He had this grand vision.
Yeah,
And he used his reputation, his persuasive skills,
yeah.
to get investors on board, to attract engineers.
It was supposed to be this smooth and profitable venture.
Right, that was the narrative.
Mhm.
But the reality on the ground, it was a completely different story.
A disaster, disease, challenging terrain,
Financial mismanagement.
thousands of workers dying,
Yeah, it spiraled into this colossal failure. The project went bankrupt.
and Lesseps' reputation was destroyed.
Completely. It makes you wonder, was part of the problem that they just couldn't even imagine failure?
Yeah, or at least not on that scale.
Right. I think it also shows how important it is to look beyond the charisma of these leaders, beyond their persuasive power.
We need to be critical.
Yes, to assess the reality, the
Yeah.
potential for downsides.
Especially when so many lives are at stake.
Absolutely. So we've got this cautionary tale
Right.
about unchecked ambition.
The Panama Canal.
Exactly. But are there examples where technological progress led to wider benefits?
That's what I want to know. Give me some hope here.
Well, the rise of railroads in Britain offers an interesting contrast.
Okay, yeah, the railroads were huge.
Yeah, and they ultimately benefited society as a whole.
And a lot of that was because of how innovators like George Stephenson navigated those power dynamics.
He was brilliant, not just a visionary,
Yeah.
but a pragmatist.
Yeah.
He knew how to work within the system
Yeah.
to build coalitions to make things happen.
He faced pushback.
Oh, yeah, from landowners, traditionalists, even some scientists.
Didn't he clash with Humphrey Davy?
He did. Over the design of those safety lamps for miners, Davy was this prominent scientist,
Right.
looked down on Stevenson's more practical approach.
Yeah, the trial and error.
Right. But Stevenson, he was focused on solving real problems.
Yeah, improving safety for the workers.
Exactly. And his lamp, it ended up being more effective.
It's fascinating how he blended that technical expertise with social awareness.
It was key to his success. And ultimately, he built this network of railroads that transformed Britain.
For the better. It facilitated trade,
Connected community.
created new opportunities.
Absolutely. It shows how technology can be a force for good.
But it wasn't automatic.
No, it took someone like Stevenson to make it happen.
It makes me think about the digital revolution we're in now. We're seeing such incredible advancements. But are we making those same mistakes?
That's the question, isn't it?
Are we prioritizing progress at the expense of people?
I mean, think about the early internet.
Yeah.
That sense of openness, collaboration, the hacker ethic.
Yeah, that belief that technology could empower individuals.
Yeah.
I love that quote from the People's Computer Company newsletter. Computers are mostly used against people instead of for people. Time to change all that.
Yeah, it really captures that spirit. But as the internet became commercialized,
Yeah.
that vision started to fade.
And these massive tech companies rose up.
Google, Facebook.
Their whole business model is built on data.
Yeah, maximizing engagement, targeted advertising.
Yeah. And suddenly the internet feels less like a tool for empowerment and more like a system of control.
Right. It's like we traded the hacker ethic for a corporate-controlled digital landscape.
So how do we reconcile that, the advancement and the exploitation?
That's the key question. And to explore it, it helps to look at periods where progress did lead to wider benefits.
Like when?
Well, like the post-World War II era.
The post-World War II era.
Yeah.
So much innovation.
Yeah.
But it seemed like the benefits were more widely shared.
They were. It's a period that offers a lot of valuable lessons. But we have to remember,
Right.
it wasn't just the technology itself, it was the context.
Right. The social and political climate.
Exactly. There was a push for social justice,
Okay.
for a fairer distribution of wealth,
Right.
and workers had a stronger voice.
They were able to actually get a share of the gains.
Yeah, instead of being left behind.
So it wasn't just about innovation for innovation's sake.
Right.
People were thinking about how to make sure everyone benefited.
Exactly. It was a time of huge change.
Yeah.
Labor unions played a crucial role.
Oh, yeah, in negotiating better wages,
Absolutely. And better working conditions.
making sure workers weren't just replaced by machines.
Yeah, but empowered by them.
What a difference from the early Industrial Revolution.
Right. It's like night and day.
Back then, it felt like progress came at the expense of the workers.
It did. But in the post-war era,
Yeah.
you had the development of social safety nets,
Okay.
strong government regulations,
Things like Social Security,
unemployment insurance.
minimum wage laws,
Exactly. They made a huge difference in reducing poverty.
and ensuring a more equitable distribution of wealth.
Right. It was a recognition that a healthy economy
Yeah.
needs an educated, healthy, secure workforce.
It wasn't just about charity.
No.
It was about investing in society as a whole.
Absolutely. It created this positive feedback loop
Okay.
where technological progress and shared prosperity
Yeah.
reinforced each other.
It's inspiring.
It is.
But it also makes you think about the challenges we face now
Yeah,
with the digital revolution.
it's a different landscape.
It is. These tech giants like Google and Facebook,
Mhm.
they have so much power.
They do. And their business models
Yeah.
based on data, engagement, targeted advertising.
It feels like profits often come before people.
Right. So the question is,
Yeah.
how do we redirect technology toward a more inclusive...
Yeah, a more human-centered path.
Exactly.
It feels like David versus Goliath sometimes.
I know what you mean. These companies are so powerful.
Can we even challenge them? Create a more equitable digital landscape.
It's not going to be easy. But history shows us
Yeah.
it's not impossible.
What do you mean?
Well, think about the labor movement.
Oh,
They faced huge opposition.
they did. Powerful corporations.
But through organizing, protesting, advocating,
Yeah.
they achieved incredible victories for workers.
So you're saying we need to draw inspiration from that?
Yes, from those historical examples
That,
of collective action and apply those lessons to the digital age.
okay, I like that. So what are some specific things we can do?
Well, the authors offer several intriguing strategies.
Okay.
One of them is government subsidies.
Subsidies. How would that work?
Well, governments can incentivize research and development
Okay.
that prioritizes human-centered AI
Okay.
and technologies that complement workers.
Not replace them.
Exactly. Instead of funding research that leads to more automation and job displacement,
Yeah.
we could invest in technologies that actually make workers more productive,
Interesting.
enhance their skills. Think about AI tools that help teachers personalize instruction or assist doctors with diagnoses.
Okay. Yeah. Things that empower people.
Exactly. But even with those investments,
Yeah.
we still need to address the power imbalance.
Right, between those tech giants and individuals.
We need to find ways to empower people
Okay.
to control and benefit from their own data.
That's where the idea of data ownership comes in.
Right. Instead of Facebook and Google profiting from our every move,
Yeah.
we'd have more control over how our data is used.
We could even potentially earn income from it.
Exactly. It would require a fundamental shift
Yeah.
in how these platforms operate.
But it gets at the heart of the problem.
It does.
Yeah.
Right now, our data is being used to manipulate us,
To exploit us.
often without our knowledge or consent.
It's a powerful idea. But how do we actually shift that balance of power?
It's a tough one. We can't just unplug from these platforms.
Right. They're too integrated into our lives.
One idea the authors discuss is data unions.
Data unions, what are those?
They're modeled after labor unions.
Okay.
Imagine individuals collectively bargaining with tech companies.
Oh, interesting.
Over how their data is used and how they're compensated.
That's fascinating. It could give individuals more leverage.
It could. But we also need to talk about the harmful content online.
Yeah, the hate speech, the misinformation.
The polarization.
Yeah.
The authors argue that we need to reform Section 230.
That's the law that shields platforms from liability.
Right. For content posted by users.
So right now, they can just claim they're neutral platforms.
Even when their algorithms are promoting harmful content.
So by reforming Section 230,
Yeah,
we could hold them more accountable.
exactly. For the content they host.
And the algorithms they use
It would create stronger incentives for them to take down harmful content.
to prioritize truth and accuracy.
Exactly. Of course, it raises questions about free speech and censorship.
Right, it's a delicate balance.
It is,
Mm.
but it's a conversation we need to have. And finally,
Yeah.
the authors suggest a digital advertising tax.
Okay, a digital advertising tax. What would that do?
The idea is to discourage those surveillance-based business models.
By taxing digital advertising revenue,
Right.
we could encourage alternative models.
They don't rely so heavily on data extraction.
Exactly. Instead of being bombarded with targeted ads,
Yeah.
we might see more subscription-based models.
Platforms that prioritize quality content.
Precisely. It could help shift the focus from engagement
Yeah.
to providing real value to users.
These are some bold ideas.
They are?
But are they really feasible? These companies have so much lobbying power.
It's a valid concern, but
Right.
remember, social change often starts with radical ideas.
Right.
The labor movement faced similar obstacles,
They did.
but through persistent organizing and advocacy,
Yeah.
they transformed the relationship between workers and corporations.
Oh, so we need to draw inspiration from them.
We do. The future of technology isn't predetermined.
What?
It's shaped by the choices we make.
Individually and collectively.
Exactly. If we want to create a digital landscape that serves humanity,
Yeah.
we need to raise our voices, demand change, and support solutions that align with our values.
It's a powerful message. But beyond these big picture policy solutions,
Yeah.
what can we do as individuals?
There are things we can do.
Okay, good.
And that's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive.
Wow, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive. It's a lot to process, you know.
It is. From those early struggles of the Industrial Revolution all the way to the potential and the perils, I guess, of the digital age.
It can feel a little overwhelming, to be honest.
Yeah, especially when you think about how powerful these tech giants are and the systems they've built. It's complex.
Yeah, and I think a lot of our listeners might be feeling that way right now. Like, what can one person really do?
Ugh.
It feels so big.
That's a valid feeling. But we can't give in to that. It's important to remember we're not powerless. Every choice we make, every action we take, it ripples out.
You're saying even small actions can make a difference.
Absolutely. We're not just passive consumers of technology, right? We have agency.
Okay, so let's talk about those actions. What can we actually do? What are some things to contribute to a more, human-centered future with technology?
Yeah.
The authors talked a lot about informed citizenship.
Yeah, that's the foundation. We have to educate ourselves
Yeah.
about the issues, the power dynamics at play, the consequences of different choices, different paths we could take with technology.
So read critically, do our own research, question what we're being told, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And don't shy away from those tough conversations, even if they're uncomfortable. Talk to people, friends, family, colleagues, about the ethics of all this. Share what you're learning.
It's about raising awareness.
It is. The more informed we are, the better choices we'll make. Choices that reflect our values.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But beyond just staying informed, what about in our daily lives? What can we do?
Well, think about the products and services you use. Every time you buy something, you're supporting a certain vision of the world, right?
You're saying we should be conscious consumers?
Exactly. Support those companies that are doing things right. Ethical data practices, treating their workers fairly, being transparent about how those algorithms work.
Looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah, not just convenience or the cheapest price.
And what if a company just isn't living up to those standards?
Opt out. Don't use their platforms, their services. It might seem small, but those choices add up. Millions of people making those decisions. That sends a powerful message.
That's good to hear. I'm feeling a little more empowered already.
You should. And don't forget about the political process, right? We need to hold our elected officials accountable.
To make choices that put people first.
Exactly. So voting, contacting your representatives, supporting organizations that are fighting for a better digital world, those are all vital actions.
And joining movements, signing petitions, even protesting.
Absolutely. Collective action is how we create real pressure for change.
This has been a really eye-opening conversation. Honestly, I came in feeling a little overwhelmed, but now I'm feeling a bit more hopeful.
That's what we were hoping for. It's easy to feel like we're just along for the ride, that technological progress is just this unstoppable force. But it's not true.
We have choices.
We do. We have voices. We can shape the future.
That's a great message to end on. So, to our listeners, we leave you with this word. If we could redesign the digital landscape, what would it look like? What principles would guide us? How can each of us, as individuals, help build that more human-centered future with technology?
Keep those questions in mind as you navigate the digital world. And remember, progress isn't guaranteed. It's a choice.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a better future.